and Teresa.
Here.
And of course, I am here as well. So everyone is here. Great, wonderful. We have approval of minutes from the February 3rd meeting. If we can get a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Second. So we have a motion by Heather and a second by Susan.
Yes.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay, so we'll take
Yes.
that to a vote. Kate,
Approved.
Heather,
Approve.
Susan,
Approved.
Teresa,
Approve.
and I approve as well. So that's a vote, unanimous. Thank you. And then earlier today we had a voucher go out and was all completed all in one day, which was awesome. It was for $41,669.98. I didn't know if anyone had questions while we were all together. Okay, not seeing any questions. We'll move on. Public comment. I do not know of any public comment right now. Mark?
Nothing is coming officially, Todd, but if I
Okay.
may just quickly give a superintendent comment. I want to give a shout out to Gloria. I think it was alluded to earlier, but last night's presentation, she did a remarkable job. And not only in that meeting, but I think what it did for me, it's the second time I've gone through the PowerPoint or the slides, but it really validates the good work of the kids, the staff, the community, in that our schools haven't been shut down. And Gloria's presentation shows the resiliency and all the good work that's being done and the hard work. And I think it provided a lot of context. Got some really great comments from Phil, and I just want to thank Gloria and the staff and the board for their support. It's really well done, and I think it provides the backdrop going into the budget season of what our schools have been able to accomplish. So good job, Gloria. Thanks.
Thanks, Dr. Gauss. I think too that I don't know what things will look like in the summer, but the libraries sometimes have events there. I'd love to be able to have a version of that to share with the community in the summer, just so they can see what school was like for our students in Mount Desert through the pandemic, because I agree with you. It's super important to me that folks have the backstory and understand what that budget is representing and supporting. And I felt super supported. Todd said earlier that the warrant committee is awesome, and they really are. They're pretty remarkable people. So thanks.
Thanks for saying that. Well, Gloria, why don't you keep on going? We're on to principal reports. So.
Okay, I just have to initiate the invite to the wellness team. It's funny.
Sure.
Okay, I can start. Tara McKernan, who is our school counselor, and Andrea Howell is our RTI behavior coordinator, and they'll be joining us in a little bit to do a wellness update. Mrs. Fernald is attending another meeting at the moment. A couple of things I wanted to share with you. We have two folks that are currently engaged in bus driver training right now. Erin, our very own Erin Allen, she has even actually gone so far as to create a slideshow that is titled, "So You Want to Be a Bus Driver?" And in that slideshow, which is going in her newsletter, and I have permission from her to send out to the other principals, it can go in the newsletter, and she puts all the resources, the books, the process, the time frame, the apps that you can study, all those things in there, and really makes it I don't know, easy for folks to know or to understand. And so that's great. We also have another bus driver candidate who, as you recall, I posted the bus driver position is 40 hours a week. Normally our bus driver position is 30 hours, but it had been posted for a very long time without a lot of interest. And so we added those extra 10 custodial hours, which we could use. So this person hasn't been hired for the position. They are an experienced bus driver who just doesn't have their school bus driver endorsement. And so they're training with Mr. Sargent, and we will take next steps when they have passed that test. And so it's pretty exciting. There's some opportunities to help out here. My wellness folks are having a hard time signing on. So I'm going to finish my principal report and try to help them out. Let's see here. Our early release afternoons on Thursdays, we have 56% of our students in grades K through 6 last week attending our afternoon programming, which is awesome. We currently have just 2 students in our school who are participating in teleschooling. I'd like to publicly thank Kate St. Dennis for being a liaison between Wanda and the wellness team and myself and teachers and families to be able to help set that up. So teleschooling looks different for every family, but we are getting pretty good at it. So that's a low number, and that's great. Last night at the warrant committee, they gifted the Mount Desert Elementary School with $600 that they usually use for their annual dinner when they vote on the articles for the town, because they're not meeting in person this year, and that money will be used to pay off lunch bills from the past. And so we're really thankful and grateful for them to share that with us. Let's see here. Some exciting things happening. We are still taking care of all of our safety precautions, washing our hands, watching our distance, wearing our masks, being super purposeful of where we are, keeping our physical distance. It's awesome. And with all of the protocols being followed, we're able to make a few changes this month to our program. So starting in a few weeks, I'm hoping intramurals will start. Floor hockey is a big draw for our students. So that's awesome. We're in collaboration with the library to start in-person library classes, which is a really big deal. And we haven't been over there all year. And so that's awesome. And those will start next week. I just need to. I apologize for the tech issues. We started.
Gloria, I'll work with Josh behind the scenes to try to move this forward. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll give him a call right now. Thanks.
I appreciate that. Thanks. So we started in-person Spanish for K4 students this week as well. And so they had Spanish during remote school, but they didn't have Spanish during in-person school. And the journey to get Spanish live instruction has been long and windy, but here we are, and that's wonderful. I'm super happy about that. We also were able to increase some art time for our students, and using all of our safety protocols, we're able to transition from art on a cart, much to the relief and joy of Shannon Westfall, our art teacher, to art in the art room. So all of our students are having art in the art room, and those are pretty big, exciting changes at our school. We've also started some field trips. We worked on a protocol so that we could have our community partners work with our students out in the field. And so last week, the 8th graders went to Soames Pond with Billy Halprin, and they participated in the frozen classroom. Today, our 6th graders were dropped off at Lower Hadlock. They built shelters, went on a watershed walk, did some ice fishing and skating, and just braved the cold. Did such a great job and came back all smiles. They walked back actually from Lower Hadlock. And then tomorrow, the 7th graders are headed out to Soames Pond. So we are getting on the road. The vans are being used some, and all of these things are being done with our safety protocols in place. So I'm really proud that folks are getting the kids out and about. You guys are going to talk about the boilers later, and I want to talk just really quickly about our RTI program. I'm pretty proud of our RTI program, our response intervention program. We work with teachers to identify or to support students that are having, that need some support with behavioral or social emotional regulation or academics. We fine-tuned our process, and we're able to provide those interventions and circle back, collaborate with teachers, and then revisit to see if they need more support or if we're able to pull some supports back for them. So we have had a reduction. I'm sure there's a lot of factors involved, but a reduction in the number of students that are being referred for special education evaluation. And as the principal of the school, I'd like to think there's some relationship there, because that's pretty awesome. And I'm really proud of the teachers for all the work they're doing with that. Those were the big things that I had to share. I don't know, Mark, how things are going with my wellness team.
So Josh is working on it, Gloria. She's in the waiting room, but I don't know if we're going to be able to make it happen. He's still trying. But what I'd suggest is that if she's able to come on, we could bring her on board. And if not, we'll figure out what the issues are and bring them back next month if we can't get them in. But Josh is working with them right now.
All right, they're down the
What-
hall. I could invite them in my room.
Why don't we see if anybody has any questions or comments while we're waiting on that, okay? Do we have any questions for Gloria? Gloria, you talked about the Thursday afternoon programs. I know that you were unable to get the 7th and 8th graders last month. How is that coming along for Thursday afternoon activities for the 7th grade and 8th grade students? And obviously, you know, I have one, so it's.
Yeah, you do. We haven't gotten there yet, Todd. I will tell you that I am strapped for staff right now, that we're at capacity with what my staff can do. And so we need to sit and regroup and focus. That doesn't mean we can't figure that out. We figured out a lot more challenging things than that. But for right now, I don't have any program for 7th and 8th grade. I do know that the Thursday mornings are when the 7th and 8th grade have taken their trips. So I don't know if that's going to be a focus of their times in the morning for some adventures that way. But it's definitely something that hasn't been ruled out and I've been thinking about. I just haven't had a chance to move forward with that.
And I know you talked about floor hockey. It seems to me that if we've been able to do basketball and some other sports, that should be able to happen. Do you think that's an accurate assessment?
That's a logic train we've been following. Yeah, so with the masks on, following our safety protocols, right? So our kids that are in the same school together, participating in those activities is totally fine because they were participating in activities with students from other schools. So.
Okay, all right, that's good. I'm sure it'll be very welcomed, as you said.
Okay. My wellness team is here. And I'm just going to put my mask on and they're going to use my computer sitting in my office, if that's okay.
Okay.
Okay. We're very flexible here. I'm going to take you for a little ride.
So now we lost Gloria altogether, right?
She's there. She's just moving the computer.
She's moving
around.
them. Okay.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
All. That's all.
There we
There
go.
they are.
They're live.
There they are. Okay,
Right.
good.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, guys.
Zoom wouldn't do anything for us, so you get us with masks on together. Hope that's okay with everybody.
We lost Gloria altogether, right?
She's right here.
Okay.
This is an authentic experience.
All right, so I'm going to see, we did have a little screen sharing that we were going to try to do, so I'll see if I can make that work as we're also using Gloria's computer. So we're going to be flexible, but I'll go ahead and just start by talking about how one of the reasons that Gloria wanted to bring us on is because there's a lot of, obviously, the importance of the social emotional health and well-being of our kids, especially in this year. And I know that that's been a focus. It was a focus for the Safe Return to School Committee and kind of going in. And one of the things that I'm as most proud of as being part of this wellness team is the way that we have been really flexible in the way that we have thought about how are we going to provide all of that social emotional support for our kids in ways that might look differently. And I've thought a lot, or we thought a lot about the things that we would want to take with us from this year moving forward, and that the experiences that we've had so far and what we're providing for the kids and what we want to bring forward. What we're going to talk about today is one of the things that if I could have everything that I wanted, or we could have everything that we wanted, we would love to have a model that's like this, because it's some of the most authentic teaching and learning that I think that I've seen happen with kids in all of the years that I've been an educator, which has been about 20 at this point. So what we want to go ahead and just start with is that we knew that the priority that we wanted for our kids is that, first of all, they needed to be in school and that they needed to be together, and that we can best support our kids when they're in the same place at the same time, learning together and socially interacting as they should be. So that is where we're going to start. And so I'm going to turn that over to Gloria, so what we're going to do, or not Gloria, Andrea, is I'm going to see if I can make this go if you want to talk about.
Okay. So one of the big things, one of the big changes that we did this year is when we started to build our schedule, we set off by putting in 3 separate recesses for all of our kids, K through 8, and they go throughout the course of the day. I think we've talked to most of the people here about this already. They each have 3 30-minute slots. And then kindergarten, first grade, and second grade also have a 30-minute outdoor learning time as well. We started to think of this recess as in a different way. So instead of the recess being a hiatus in the learning, we started to really focus on this, the outside time as being our classroom. And so we are focusing very carefully on the skills that the kids are not only utilizing outside, but the skills, the potential there for what the kids can actually learn as they go through the year. We're observing the kids all of the time. And when we're making these observations, it's informing our planning. We're very intentional about what we put in place for the kids when they're outside. They're not just standing around waiting for the when they're let back in. They're being encouraged to explore their environment and explore the people that they're with. So we've been very careful about keeping our cohorts together, and so each of our cohorts is the entire grade span. So kindergarten is one cohort. Inside, they're separated because we have to put in that physical distance mitigation. Outside, they come together and they're playing in just one play zone. So at the same time, we might have first grade outside and second grade outside, and each of those grades are cohorts and they have their own zone to play in. So watching those kids play and seeing how they collaborate is very interesting for us. Inside of the school building, they're in a small group, and outside they're in their bigger group, and it's a more natural and organic way for them to actually be together.
Excellent. So did you went over all of those things? So in thinking about the ways that the kids are learning and the teaching that we're doing outside. So a lot of my work as a school counselor in previous years, I would go into individual classrooms and I would have a lesson, and maybe I would have a lesson on how to be a good friend or how to apologize if you've made a mistake, or I would see kids privately in my office to work on social skills. And often those social skills that we were working on are friendship issues with me and a kid in an office, which in theory is a decent model, and it has worked, and I have created some excellent relationships with kids over the years. But what that doesn't do is always let the kids generalize to what's actually happening outside. So when they're with their friends. So the work that we're doing outside with the kids all of the time is that we're out there, and sometimes it might look like we're just on duty, but what we're watching the kids do is practice conflict resolution and compromise and negotiation and cognitive flexibility, imaginative play. If we see kids start to have a social interaction that they're really struggling with, they're 2 kids that are maybe having a hard time sharing with each other, then I can, or Andrea, we can be right there helping to coach the language around, hey, the kids will come over and they'll be like, so-and-so won't give me the bunny, and I wanted the bunny, or I wanted the shovel. And so we'll have conversations about, hey, what are ways that we can, what do you need to help to fix this? Or what have you already tried? And we start to give, and sometimes they'll be like, well, I tried saying, let's share this thing, and they wouldn't do it. And then we'll say, okay, go back and try this again. And then maybe the third time we'll say, okay, here, let me go with you and let me see if I can help. And then in that case, we'll let the kids go and we'll provide the modeling with our own language, and then step back, and then they start to work out and negotiate with each other. So the teaching is happening in these really authentic ways throughout the course of the 90 minutes a day that the kids have, socially interacting with each other in these really authentic play and collaboration groupings that are happening outside. So they're also learning self-advocacy and handling disappointment, plus just the physical literacy of all of the play that's happening all day long. one of the things that we've heard from a lot of parents and a lot of kids and a lot of teachers is that even though this is a pandemic school year, it's one of the best school years that the kids have had, because the kids are getting the movement that they need, they're getting the social interaction that they need, and they're getting the sometimes less structure, especially with the older kids. So Todd, I'm thinking about your kid in particular here and his group, that when the littlest kids we keep as close to us as we need to because they're 5. The 7th graders, I'm thinking, love to be out. They like to be sometimes as far away as they actually, this is new. They started out as far away as they could possibly be for us. And within the last probably month, they have come much, much closer to us. So sometimes we can still have eyes on them, but they're off on the field doing their thing. And we're watching them do all of the play that's really important to them because they need that independence and they need the autonomy of being away from adults and not having things be structured all the sometimes. And now we're watching them move their play and their collaboration to be a little bit closer to us, and they're playing differently and want to interact with us in different kinds of ways. So it's really neat to see them learn all of these different skills and learn all of these and have opportunity for all of this different navigation and being able to give them what they need both physically and also socially and emotionally. Anything else that you want to say about that?
No, I think that the one of the other when we're thinking about the difference of adding in all of this extra outside time for our students, we're thinking about what does this actually have? How can we have this impact how we do school as we move forward? We spend a lot of time looking for the silver lining in this pandemic and the way that we've had to do school over this last year. I know that all of you have as well. And I think that some of this connection that we're able to see when the kids are outside is something that it's very joyous, it's very natural, it's very, it's something that we feel that we'd like to grab a hold of and keep as we move going forward. So we're working really hard on collecting data for what we can, bring back with us to our colleagues to share with them. We're looking for evidence of how the kids are growing, the emotional growth that they're showing, the physical growth and the physical literacy that they're developing as we go along. I talked a little bit before about us being very intentional with our planning. We've also built documents that we're able to collect evidence of what the kids are doing, perhaps even anecdotal evidence of challenges that the kids are experiencing, what we feel is going on for them, and also how we will support them moving forward. The skills that are involved, the skills where the kids are actually working, and then some communication and an invitation for collaboration with our colleagues who are inside of the classroom. So we're able to communicate with teachers on the inside of the building to see if these things that we're seeing outside are things that they're seeing inside as well, whether that's a strength or whether that's a challenge. It's something that we can support them with. And we're only just starting really to see some challenges arising for the kids in the classroom that we're able to go in and work with colleagues to say, well, this is what we're seeing outside. Let me come in and have a look to see what you're seeing inside of the classroom with your more academic expectations. And then you come outside and see what we're seeing on the playground as well. So we're collecting evidence for what we, what we're able to share with colleagues and how we want to be able to keep bringing this forward.
All right, in theory, Gloria might be able to pull up an example of this in a second from her other computers. We're trying to be really flexible on the presentation that we had for you here. So we're going to see if this works. So you can get an idea of what this looks like in the ways that we're being able to take this and make sure that we're as streamlined as possible between what's happening outside for the kids and what's happening so that teachers also see and can support that learning. So we'll see if this works, and if not, that's okay too. Are there any, while we're working on this, are there any questions that anybody has about any of the things that we've talked about so far and the things that you are wondering about how we're supporting the kids socially and emotionally Yeah, Dr. Gauss.
Thanks, guys. Just an observation. Well, first of all, thank you for the good work you're doing. And Gloria, not to put work on you, but in some way, maybe that's just another extension or component of, just that presentation, so parents and community know that the important work that's being done. And I don't know how you capture that, but that's a huge piece, as you guys know better than anyone, that people have questioned the whole social emotional piece right now. I hope, if at all possible, and you're probably already thinking about this, is how we can network across other schools too to replicate some of this. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. And that kind of jumps us ahead to one of the things that I know that Gloria has talked to you all about, that we have done a lot in various ways as far as communication. One form of communication that we've done as a team a lot is providing parent and family forums, which have been an excellent model of communication. Oh, before we get to that, here is an example of the document that we were just talking about. So this is a sanitized version of what we've been using with every grade, kindergarten through 8th grade. We just launched this a couple of weeks ago. So what we're doing is we're taking observations of what's happening outside. So in this case, this is a real situation that we've been seeing outside, but different names to protect everybody. But we have a kindergartner. So we have this bucket of play animals, like big plastic animals, and the kindergartners love these things. They're like top favorite things that the kids have as far as toys go. And in this case, there are certain of these little animals that are the favored animals. And I think currently it's a bunny is the favorite animal. And so for the kindergartners, it's like hot ticket to try to get the bunny. And it can also lead to the same kids always getting the bunny. And so what we observed is that there's one kindergartner in particular, Annie, who would often hang back and not get the thing that she was really working for. And the kids who are the most kind of really grabby and ready to get what they want will go after it. And this kid in particular would kind of hang back and not get the preferred choice. And then that also would translate to not necessarily always getting to join the game. So we make this observation, and then we just kind of put our thoughts for the teachers. And what we think we're seeing is happening is that the other students need to help understanding that sometimes everybody needs a turn. This kid, Annie, needs to learn to support for how do you advocate for yourself in these kind of situations? What are some ways to ask? And so then we put in what our next steps are. Our next steps in this case are coaching strategies for sharing, being able to use discrete strategies also for, we might help when the kids grab the bucket of animals to say, oh, the kid with the bunny ears gets the bunny today, or the kid who's wearing the red sneakers gets to have this today. They don't always know, or gets to have first choice today. They don't always know exactly that that's what we're doing, but it helps to make turn taking happen more often. The thing that we want to happen most often is that we coach the strategies for the kids to learn these skills by themselves. So then you'll see that there's a place for teacher observations and comments. In this case, it was the perfect situation. The kindergarten teacher saw that we put this on there, and then automatically went to teaching and modeling the behavior that they would need as far as turn taking and sharing. And so was able to employ that as a teaching thing in the classroom as well with some role playing. You'll see at the bottom part where it says skills focus that we have all of the different interpersonal communication skills, physical literacy, and social emotional skills. The things that are highlighted are the things that we see are happening in that situation, or the things that we are highlighting that the kids, in this case, need extra help and coaching around. So we're doing a model of this. And then there's also the follow-up step. So if the teacher feels like there needs to be more follow-up, then they can check any of those or highlight any of those boxes as far as, hey, we would like to have a consult with the recess team, or we want to just consult with the school counselor. We need to either move this forward, or this has been dealt with and we're not seeing the same thing in the classroom, or we just want to have a conversation around it. So do you want to say anything else about this as I'm?
No, I think this is going to be really helpful for us. The way that this particular document is going to be the most help is for us to move students forward as they're gaining the skills. So we can highlight the skills where they're actually working, and we can think about, we can theorize or hypothesize what is coming next. But the biggest piece is collaborating with the teachers who are usually on the inside of the building and inviting them out. so they can come and see what's happening outside and consult with us, inviting us back into their classrooms so that we can compare notes and support these kids throughout their school day, rather than, you know, as I say, recess being just a gap or just a duty. There's a lot of teaching and learning happening outside this year for our kids.
So that's the end. So I think that maybe Josh was sharing that screen potentially, or Gloria. But to go back to talking about family forums and parent forums, is that, you know, at the start of the year when we were getting ready to have kids in, we held forums, and often what we would hold two, I don't know, multiple for every age group, at least two for each age group that we had, to make sure that families had the opportunity to hear, either at the start of the year was to be able to hear what the different protocols were, what school was going to look like, and be able to answer any questions. And over the course of the year, as different either changes have been being made, or we saw some sort of need coming up, we would try to offer some forums to give just another way to communicate. Our intention is that when we get to parent-teacher conference times, that we think that this teaching that's happening out on the playground and the social emotional learning that's happening is a really key important part. So our family forum at that time will be able to focus on what this learning and what this teaching and what we're observing in the kids in their social emotional health that's happening through this play, through the collaboration, through their time, social time with peers, and being able to connect with the adults during that time too. So we're going to be able to, I guess, Dr. Gauss, to answer your question, is be able to get this out to parents in this way as well, and be able to host a forum where people will be able to ask questions and we can share the good work and the pretty amazing joy that we're seeing happen. You know, and of course it's not all joy, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of learning as well. But what we see is, I think so many people went into this school year really worried about what the kids would experience, and that they were really worried that the idea of having to wear masks all day or being able to be having to be in these really small groups would be really traumatic for the kids. And what we're finding is that we're not seeing that. I think that we've been able to provide a model where we're seeing kids thrive in a lot of ways, and they are coming up against bumps, but they're also coming to us with a lot of just enjoyment and happiness. And, you know, these last 2 days we had to be inside because it was pouring down rain, and then yesterday was freezing, and we've had the kids out pretty much constantly.
We've had 3 indoor recesses
This
the
entire
time.
And by the end of yesterday, the kids were already like, I can't wait to be back outside during all of that time. And we could really notice a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have full plans to be able to communicate this out and continue to communicate out both with parents and then any other educators, of course, that would like to learn more about the systems that we've put in place for this.
Thanks for giving us the time to talk with you all, though, and we're always happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
If I could, I just wanted to comment that thank you for this report. I think it's wonderful that you're addressing the social and emotional well-being concerns of the students, considering, you know, everything going on. And I really liked the evidence of growth, how you're observing it and documenting it, and then the follow-up, which is fantastic. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Excellent. All right. Okay. Oh, wait. Gloria's coming back over. She can't talk yet. We'll get off and then she can.
We
get
have
back
to
on.
switch out. Thank you very much for your time. See you soon.
Did you turn the video off?
Nope.
You grubbers.
Thank you for that. I just want to put a couple more finishing touches to that. Oh, they're gone now. This document that we have one for every grade level, for every cohort. And I attend all the school's IEP meetings and 504 meetings. And when families have questions, you know, I'll pull up student data and I'll look at these forms, and I was able to really provide some specifics and to connect the parents with our behavior coordinator and counselors. So there's a good, rich record of learning. This is also an example of the work we've done to meet the students' needs and also meet the needs of the teachers so that they have time. By having the consistency of the same staff out on the playground. Do you know how many office referrals I've had this year? Just one. And that was a transitional situation that I wouldn't even call an office referral. So I'm super proud of that. And the kids are learning how to solve their problems, how to communicate and advocate. And that's, I think, what this world needs, a little more of that. So thanks for listening.
So are there any questions? Any more follow-up questions? No. Actually, I have a couple, Gloria, for you. So just to clarify, so this year we had 3 30-minute blocks of recess.
Mhm.
And is that, are you thinking that you're trying to continue that
That's a good
another
question.
year?
That's a good question.
Is that what I'm getting?
So we have our March staff meeting on Monday, and one of the things that we'll be doing is reflecting on this year and seeing what are the positives that we've noticed from this school year and the changes that we've made that have impacted student health and well-being, social emotional behavior, and academic learning, all of that. And so we're starting that reflection process here. I can tell you, though, that when we did work to add some more classes to middle school, that the teachers were in favor of, you know, keeping this outside time for the students. It has made a difference in their ability to focus and learn. And so I don't have a definite answer for you yet, but all evidence is leaning towards that this is a positive thing for our students. Something to note, though, none of this is easy. Everything's all out on the table. You know, we don't have a music program this year. And that's, you know, we're asking a lot of our time. And so we've got some decisions to make and some things to figure out, but I'll be able to have that information for you, you know, solidly in the next.
I mean, I guess that's why I'm asking for that. In the past, we've had 1 30-minute or 1 20-minute recess.
We had a
Is that-
pre-COVID time.
Yeah.
Did a break in the morning, maybe 20 minutes. I'd have to look, and then 25 minutes maybe at lunch.
Okay.
So, or maybe at 10, 15 minutes in the morning. So, yep.
So that would be with what we're talking about in the future here, keeping 3 30-minute recesses and early release and trying to get music and the other classes back into schedule. That's going to be pretty tight.
Yeah, it's asking a lot of a school day. But I can tell you that you know, we're going to work and meet as a staff to hear folks' priority or takeaways and set some goals for building our schedule and programming for next year. I'm already, you know, putting templates out for, you know, depending upon the space, the physical distancing that's needed between our students, that'll impact how many pods of each cohort we're going to need. So there's a lot of factors there, but that is on the slate beginning on Monday.
And so that would be different at MDES than it would be at all the other K-8 schools, if that was the case. They're not doing 3 30-minute recesses now, correct?
Some of them are.
So are we saying that there's a potential that MDES has different scheduling than the other K-8 schools?
All of the schools have different scheduling. They all have different.
But for next
they all
year?
have different numbers.
For next year?
No, but they've always had different scheduling. MDES has had a much fuller program in some areas, and there's
Okay.
always been different schedules. We've worked towards making them more in common, but they're still different.
Good, that's good. I mean, I'm in favor of that. I just want to be clear that they're all different now. They have been in the past. So it seems like that might be where we're headed again for next year. So, all right, thank you. Anything else, Gloria?
No, I just we don't have the MEAs this March, right, Julie?
That is correct. However, we did do winter and WEAs. I'll be reporting out on that, but we do not have MEAs until the end of the year, and it's likely that those will be the NWEA as well.
So that's awesome. And so 2 things about that. Thing number 1 is that that gives us back about 2.5 weeks of instructional time, almost 3 weeks when you talk about pre-planning and just all of the things, which is quite remarkable for March. Usually March has a lot of interruptions. And so we're looking at some really great uninterrupted learning time coming up. And then the other thing is that our RTI team already met and reviewed the midwinter NWA data and have worked to put some supports in place for students that need that. So I'm super proud of that too.
I'm working currently with Jill. I don't know, nobody asked this question, but I'll just let you know, to create an academic profile for each of the schools based on what we know about fall to winter. So you compare that up here at MDES with what the changes in the programming have been to look at how that looks with the academics, at least using the NWA as a measure, which is not perfect, and for grades 3 through 8. And then we're collecting data from K2 teachers so that we have a sense of that as well in terms of benchmarks.
Okay. I noticed we have no subcommittee updates or anything, Mark, so, okay.
No, quite a few updates we'll provide on Monday, Todd, at the AOS level, but I can take any questions if anybody has any.
No. I know we have a discussion item for the boilers here at MDES, so why don't we just move right on into that?
Are you okay, Todd, if I just kind of tee that up?
Yep.
So first off, I just want to make sure the school committee and the community knows that that at this time, everything is safe and operational. We certainly would not have students or staff in school if it were not. The boilers at MDES are on their last legs. They're 20 years of age. That question came up last night in terms of the age and when they were installed, but they're approximately 20 years in age, and life expectancy for a boiler, loosely defined, between 20 and 30 years, probably more north of 20, but it is what it is. Both of the boilers recently failed. I have to give a shout out to Leon Sargent, Wendell Opalwall, our vendor that monitors the system, and Gloria. They all worked together to make sure that things were seamless. We went from 2 boilers to no boilers to wondering whether or not we'd be able to continue in school to borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. And luckily, Leon was able to patch some things together through older parts that he had wisely stowed and retained, and support from other schools within the AOS that worked to provide some resources. So we have 2 boilers that are working right now, but as early as within a day or so ago, we had 1 down, but back up again. This is not going to get better. It's going to get worse. So we're a little nervous right now moving forward about what next year looks like. So it's our recommendation that we replace these boilers. That's number 1. Number 2, there are a lot of questions. A question came up with the warrant committee last night because we wanted to provide an overview. We didn't want anybody to be surprised by this, what the financial implications were. But ultimately, the school committee is the one that will approve whether or not we replace the boilers, and if so, how and how we do it. It rests with the school committee. Looking at the finances and all the options, and again, stressing that right now we're operational, we're safe. I'm reasonably confident, as is Leon and others, that we can limp through the end of the year with what we have, but we really should look at replacing those boilers now or sooner rather than later. Couple questions to consider. It came up last night: sustainability and efficiency, and we're all about that as a district. We have to really think about a couple of things here. What the most viable option is in terms of the plant, is getting, even if the technology is available, it's certainly available, but does it warrant looking at wood-fired or wood pellet boilers and getting them into a space like that? What are the implications on solar and other devices? And so we want to be conscious about the environment. We want to be conscious about sustainability, but we have a window that's fairly narrow here that we have to prepare for in the coming fall. The boilers that are presently in that school, they consume about 7.5 gallons of number 2 fuel per hour. That is not very efficient. The boilers that we're looking at or have been recommended to replace are extremely efficient, much more efficient than that. And we can get into the specifics of that, but we didn't want to get too far out ahead of this because we're not at a point where we're offering a recommendation to select a specific vendor or a boiler. What you have in front of you is a number that hopefully is a placeholder that just gives the board a sense of what we're talking about in terms of costs. Certainly, we should be going out to bid or seek additional quotes and then bring that recommendation back to the board. I've been down to the plant, looked it over, and we would recommend, and the vendor, the outside consultants would recommend replacing both. Makes sense to replace both boilers. And at the same time, when you're looking at your circulator pumps, there are, I think, at least 6 or 8 circ pumps in there. Those need to go as well because it makes no sense to replace the boiler and not replace those circulator pumps. So those are included in that cost estimate. Loosely defined, we're talking about a number somewhere between 127 and 130,000. I'm confident that's a solid number. So how would you proceed? Speaking with Nancy and looking at the finances, MDES is very, very well positioned with their reserve account for building maintenance. And it's north of 200,000 now. It's approximately $213,000. You're slated to add to that for about $22,000, $25,000. You'll be, by the end of the fiscal year, you'll be at approximately 238 or so $1,000. If you subtract a number approximately 130,000 from that, you'd still have north of 100,000, which is a very healthy reserve. Nancy and I would recommend that the board move forward with replacing the boilers and the circ pumps, obviously going out to bid or seeking additional quotes, and utilizing the building and maintenance reserve to accomplish that work. Gloria, I don't know if you have anything to add. Nancy, if there's anything you want to add, and then certainly we can take any questions, but I think that is a 10,000 foot view of where we're at this time, Todd.
So does anybody have any questions? Heather.
So this isn't the first time we've talked about these boilers, and we've talked about them under other superintendents. So I am all in favor of getting these boilers replaced. I think if if 2 went out the other day, then this is pretty critical. I am really psyched to hear about the monies that we have in the reserve. That I would support moving that forward that way. And I guess, this kind of goes to Gloria. We started to take a look at our infrastructure, and I think boilers, that was on them. Did we get far enough down the road with that to, figure out, are there boilers that we could afford that would be appropriate for our building, but also keep in mind the climate and look at longevity?
That's a great question, Heather. We have not, since this came up, we did start looking around a couple of years ago, about 2 years ago, and put that on hold at that moment. Right now, we are looking at, replacing the boilers with other oil burners, but that is something that I'm happy to do. Leon Sargent and Wendell Upwall are a wealth of information, I think, as far as the boilers go and their efficiencies and what our school needs. I can work with them and we can come up with an idea of what other possibilities there are. I'd be happy to do that.
Just to add a quick piece to that, if I could,
Yeah.
Gloria and Heather. So I have experience with geothermal units, and certainly, the space we're looking at and the footprint of MDES, it would be really difficult at best to look at that. And you're probably talking about major drilling. So geothermal, the technology's there, but the footprint and whether or not that would work, that would be tough. Additionally, if you're talking about wood fire or pellets, bringing them in and how you're going to have entrance and egress to that facility, that is another challenge because we're in a tight space. And I'm not suggesting that we don't explore those. I'm just trying to lay out some of the challenges we have with that plant. The third piece is natural gas and the ability to bring natural gas or a line. And I don't believe there is a direct line in that area. So those kind of narrow us in some respects, but the boilers that have been recommended are incredibly much more efficient than the current plant. So, I said this last night, our partnership with A Climate to Thrive, all the initiatives on sustainability on the island, and it's a focus area for our schools. We're going to make sure that we leave no stone unturned and bring in any recommendation that is the most environmentally friendly, that is conducive to what we have on not only in our accounts, but with the footprint of that school. So just to throw that out there, that is on our minds.
I do want you to know, I invited Wendell to come because he should be a big part of this conversation. He's got such institutional memory of this building, this facility. He's getting his first COVID vaccination, so he's not here, but I know, right? And so, but he's totally on board and wants to help figure this out. So
Heather, then Teresa.
So Gloria, thank you, Todd, and Gloria, thank you. Going forward with this, I completely understand why we've had to put a few things aside, particularly looking at the plant. And like I said initially, I think that's great that we could use our reserve and potentially have still over 100,000 available. But as you guys are looking at this and moving forward, can we just make sure that 100,000 is okay to, that we might not need more? Is there something else that we're going to have to look at in, 2022, that sort of thing?
Teresa?
Hi there. Thank you all. I too think it's a great idea to ensure the safety and the well-being of the students and the staff in regards to heating and making sure that they are comfortable during their school days. It sounds, as y'all described, it is a very extensive process. In doing this, how long would this take? Would this take like all summer? I'm assuming they try to work on this during the summer months when the because it's working to get them through the season. So if you're going to replace it, would it be done during the summer months when there's not much need for the heating system, or maybe no need for the heating system? Or will this be done like next fall? Or what would be the time frame and the length of time for this process, which I think again is very important for the well-being of the students and staff, to ensure their comfort in the learning place.
Mark?
Well, if there is a silver lining, it's a great question, Teresa. We had a similar situation not too far down the road in Tremont, where we had to replace boilers, and we did it exactly, pretty much unfolded the same way. Yes, we were able to accomplish that. Actually had to tear a wall out to do it, but we were able to accomplish that over the summer. This is not work that obviously we want to perform during cold weather season or when we need any sort of heating or those types of facilities when students or staff are in. So yes, we'd want to do it over the summer. I think we're well positioned. I mean, if there is a silver lining here, is that we're talking about this now. We can get the quotes that we need and then bring something back to the school committee sooner rather than later, with the hope of getting this on the books and doing the work this summer. That would be our recommendation. Yes. I mean, if we don't do that, we're going to be in a difficult place in terms of, I mean, as you know, those boilers are right across from the cafeteria. So yeah, we want to make sure that we get this scheduled and in the queue and do it this summer is the short answer.
Teresa,
So you
follow
wouldn't be
up?
able to say whether or not it would take a matter of all summer or a matter of weeks, or it has to be assessed and.
It's not, I mean, the units that we're talking about are about the size of, oh God. I'd say a small U-Haul trailer is a
see.
good estimate of what we're talking about.
Okay.
2 of those, okay? It's a tight space, but it can be done. And I think it's, I'm going to say it's at least a month job, and who knows, there's so many variables, and let's face it, there's a lot of work being done right now, and everybody, try to get a plumber or try to get some type of a vendor. There are companies that do this type of work, are doing HVAC work, so there's a lot going on, and I'm trying to be very careful on answering the question, because it just, the sooner we select or make a recommendation for a plant, and the sooner we can identify a vendor, we can get a lot of commitments and answers to you. But I'd be nervous about going any further than that this time. I do think it is. I'm reasonably confident if we move forward soon, we can get this done this summer and be in good shape.
Thank you.
Yep, go ahead, Gloria.
One thing to add to that, I know that Mr. Sargent talked about, embedded in this is an on-demand hot water heater, because our boiler is firing all the time, and so it's not efficient, and so just super thoughtful thinking about, sustainable as we can be with an oil burning furnace. So I apologize if you already mentioned that, but that was something that was important.
No, that's a good point, Gloria, because that goes to the how can we be more efficient. That in fact would be a huge savings, and that's something that I failed to mention. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
So back to Heather's point about having enough money and putting enough money aside for the other projects that unfortunately, because of COVID, we really kind of stopped talking about that whole project. And our building is important. It's an important resource, like the teachers, to have that. So I want to make sure we have enough money put aside for that. I also believe with what Phil asked last night, and that was, sustainability and oil furnaces. I did read the estimate, the proposal. There is just one suggestion, an idea, and you're right. It was one of the, I guess, to provide hot water, there was a heat pump mentioned in there. The other thing that was mentioned was $1,100 in rebates for Efficiency Maine that they think only goes through until March. But in my experience, those Efficiency Maine rebates seem to go on and on and on. So that doesn't seem to be something to worry about. But I would like to see us really focus on the efficiency of it, and whatever the type of fuel, whatever the best type of fuel is for the future.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Todd. Leon and Wendell and I do look at our priority list and the work that we've completed. The next project for our school was the paving that needed to happen outside, and we have put that on hold. It's not an emergency, but it's something that should be taken care of. And then next up, the project that we were looking at when Mike Sealander did his report and review of our school assessment of our schools, we have some walls that are uninsulated. You can walk through our school and there's spots that just have a cold breeze, and looking at window repair and replacements throughout the school. So those are the next 2 big projects that are up on our priority list that we're using as a guide to help take care of our space.
Okay. So I know that was a discussion item, but our action item tonight is our budget. And so if I understand and remember correctly, that maintenance fund reserve, we can always go back and vote to use that after the fact. We don't need to worry about that right now for this action item in our budget. Is that accurate?
Todd, can
Nancy?
You actually need to put it in your budget on both
Okay.
sides of the budget. And I don't know if you've seen the email that I sent out. I put a PDF of both.
Yep.
There's one that says with boilers. And that one
Okay.
shows with the $130,000 on each side of the budget.
Okay.
So
So
it
when
change,
we,
it artificially inflates your budget, but your town appropriation is still the same because that income is on the revenue side.
right, okay. So we will, tonight, we will vote by, in that action of the budget for next year, we will vote to expend that money from that maintenance reserve.
Basically, yeah, when you vote, your budget total includes
Okay,
your
good.
boilers.
Okay. So I guess I just moved on to the action item. There you go. So we'll move on to the action item tonight, and that's the budget. So Nancy just filled this in. Is there more that you'd like to discuss on the budget? Nancy, Gloria?
I don't have any other additions on the budget. I feel that I feel secure in the additional items that I'm requesting at the end of the budget. The 1-year certified teaching positions to help us through this, what I'm really trying to consider a transition year out of the pandemic and with COVID restrictions. But I want to be prepared. I want our school to be able to operate with all of our specials programs in place, and I want the kids to all have certified teachers. According to our numbers, this is what would work out for us.
Okay. Heather?
Thanks. Gloria, can you just refresh my memory? The 5,000 for the pre-K, what were we going to try and accomplish in the next school year with respect to that?
Oh, that's great. That's a good question, Heather. So, the warrant committee too asked about the future for the pre-K collaboration. So I actually already have some of our primary teachers, our math specialists and literacy specialists who connect with some of the local nursery schools. That would be working on some school preparedness activities and some professional development with the nursery school, and collaboration on some parent forums and social emotional development and school readiness for our pre-K students in the community. And so there's a whole bunch of things in there, activities that we usually do, have some collaborative programs like art. The students usually come up to our school for art, but just getting a presence with the pre-K population in the town of Mount Desert, connecting ourselves with the families, and working to clarify, what our kindergarten ready behaviors and skills that we're looking at our school. So a lot of collaborations, parent forums, PD, things like that.
Any other questions? No. So Gloria, when we heard from Tara and Andrea today about what they're doing during the recess break, and some of the skills that the students are learning, or at least they're watching. With pre-K, what would we see? Would we see a change in that?
Oh, with the fact that Tara and Andrea are teaching recess right now?
Yeah, would we see that we'd have more students entering into school prepared with some of those skills?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, and there's lots of evidence out there that supports that, a strong pre-K program, the more early literacy and the more socialization, the better the chance the student has to succeed academically. I'm sure Julie's got more, I bet she could cite more specific data than I do, but yeah, and what great support too for families, so they know what our programs are, they know what to expect when their students are coming to school, and just building those relationships early just make the whole process of being at ease and learning so much quicker, I think, and earlier in the school year.
Okay, so budget, if we don't have any other questions or comments on that, then I guess we're there to take the budget to a vote. Heather?
Was I was going to make a motion.
Okay,
Nancy, the $4,982,955 is the total.
Yes, that would be including the boilers,
Boiler.
yes.
Okay, so I move to approve the budget that includes the boilers for a total of $4,982,955 for the 21-22 school year.
I second it.
okay, so we have a motion by Heather, a second by Teresa. Are there any other questions or comments before we take it to a vote? Seeing none, we'll take that to a vote. I'll go around the squares. Kate?
So approved.
Susan?
Approved.
Teresa?
Approve.
Heather?
Approved.
And I approve as well. That's a vote unanimous in favor.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your support.
Thank you, everybody. And Nancy, thank you. Another budget down.
Yes, thanks, Nancy. We are on to other business. I don't know if anyone has any other business. I guess one thing I'd say, I did send a letter to the town for the town annual report. I know that you all saw a copy of that. So thanks for taking the time to look at that with me. I appreciate that.
Todd?
Yep.
I'll be putting out some information to staff and to parents. We're at that time of the year where we're considering recommendations on the calendar. We're not bringing a formal recommendation on Monday. We bring those recommendations though through the AOS board. So I just want to give people a heads up that we'll be discussing that on Monday. There'll be some information, some talking points, and then some surveys to follow for both parents and staff. So I don't want anybody to get nervous. There's no action that's being recommended for Monday, but just want to get the word out that they should be looking for those communications, and so we can get their feedback. Thank you.
I did have that down on my other business. Was I know we have that on the agenda. I believe both high school and AOS. I think it says calendar. I know that there are some talking points, but I know they haven't been shared out yet, right? So
Not yet, Todd. No, I haven't sent them out, but I will be doing an update here before Monday. So that information will be going out.
And will that get linked to those?
I did send it out to the board, and yes, I know you and I discussed that. So I'll work on doing that so people have some context.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Just to have some, how I feel about information ahead of time. So
absolutely,
I think pretty clear on that one.
Well, nobody likes to have information put in front of them and then ask them for a decision. So absolutely, we got you. Thank you.
Okay, great. And then is there anybody else for other business? No. Okay. We do have so voting. Before I move on, so voting. We still have Heather, myself, and Teresa, and that goes until May, just as a reminder, unless one of us isn't around. And then we'll figure that out, obviously. But I think we work very well together when we have this in place, and then we figure out if we have to on the spot. So if everyone's still good with that, unless you guys have issues ahead of time, just let me know, and I'll try to figure that out before those meetings. Okay, Gloria?
Just to clarify, that's, can you repeat the names of the voters, please?
Yep, Heather, myself, and Teresa.
Oh, I got it. Thank you.
Yep. And then future agenda items. I was probably ahead of myself, but we did just talk about it, and I wrote it down. So I wonder if the calendar discussion needs to come back here for our meeting in the following month. So just as a consideration for a future agenda item.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else for future agenda items? Julie, then Heather, then Gloria.
If the local board would like, I would be happy to do an update on academic progress based on the winter testing specific to MDES.
For the next meeting, or now, for the next meeting. Okay. Yep, great. That would be great.
Todd, the only thing I was going to say is I liked your idea about the calendar on the local. We're going to have on March 8th, the discussion at the AOS level.
Right.
And then what is it, like April
7th.
April 7th is
Yep.
the next meeting. And then the April AOS meeting calendar will be on again. And sometimes in a larger group, not everybody's heard or not everybody's thought about it. So I think having that smaller group and have it on your April agenda is a good idea.
Thank you. And just to take it one step further, since we're talking about it, I'm also thinking we may get some more, as Mark is putting together surveys and feedback from teachers and parents, having them filter through all the local schools might make that more efficient and effective for everybody, and probably more attainable for people as well. So if that works, then that would be awesome. Thank you. Our next meeting is Wednesday, April 7th at 4 p.m. And that's all we have. So we have, Gloria.
Yep. Future agenda items. I'm wondering about probationary teachers, having the probationary teachers.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Mark.
yeah, I'll be working with Selena on finalizing the lists and working with principals and Julie to review so that we can bring recommendations. But we're on track, but that's a good heads up, Gloria. But Selena's right on top of that.
Okay. So does that go on the April agenda? Or is that a May agenda?
We're on our timeline. I'm not sure if it's April. I believe it's May, but I'll double check with her. But
Thanks, Mark.
we have to do that at all of our levels contractually. All of our local boards contractually. So yes.
It always seems to be warmer weather when we're talking about it. So.
Yeah, there's a statutory requirement. So that's not something we can mess up. Or should mess up rather.
Okay, so we have that future meeting, and then we just need a motion to adjourn. Thank you, everybody.
Move to adjourn.
Second. All right, thank you. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thanks.